Can we trim our peyot? You could do whatever you want. The question is, should you? Should you? The main thing is when it comes to peyot, is you have to have this. You have to have this. You can't cut, you can't shave this part with less than a number 2. That's the part that you have to have. Okay, if you want to show that you love Hashem's mitzvot, just like when we kiss the mezuzah, we don't have an obligation to kiss the mezuzah. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says that this whole custom of kissing the mezuzah was learned from the story of Onkelos Ager, that the Goyim tried to, from the house of Titus, he was related to him. He was the next in line to become the Caesar. They were coming to his house to try to convert him back. Instead of him, he was on the way to converting to Judaism. Actually, he already converted at this point. And every time they would see him kissing the mezuzah, I said, "Why are you kissing this piece of stick?" He says, "Because unlike your king that's hiding behind his castle and needs you to protect him, my king protects me when I'm inside the house and outside the house." So the Goyim liked it so much, they ended up converting. And so many people converted that they gave up on him and they left him alone. So the whole minhag, the whole custom of kissing the mezuzah is not an obligation, but rather he showed his love of Hashem by kissing the mezuzah, showing loving kissing the mitzvah, and therefore he did it. Same concept when it comes to peyot. Okay, peyot is not an obligation of the Torah to have the long peyot and so on. This is not an obligation, but it's a hidur mitzvah. It's showing a Kadosh Baruch Hu how much I love it. Now, the bigger it is, the more it is, the more in essence you're showing Hashem that you love it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't love Hashem if you have short peyot. Some big chachamim, tzaddikim did not even have peyot. It also depends on the custom. But the point being is, it all depends on why you're doing it in the first place. Why you're growing it and why you're trimming it. Or you want to trim it. So that's the thing. That's really, so I can't answer that for you because I don't know why you have it in the first place and why you would want to trim it. If you see somebody that's suffering, you shouldn't tell them, "Oh, don't worry, you're suffering for a good cause." But on the other hand, I also told you guys that every time we see that we're suffering, or that the world is suffering, we should also always know that this is kaparat avanot, and we made the sins, and we have to repent, and so on. So how do we decipher the difference here? So here it goes. If it's your own personal suffering, then surely you should look for yefashfesh b'ma'asav. You should look into your own actions. The Gemara says in Masechet Brachot, you should look into your own actions and see where you erred, where you made a mistake, where you made a sin that would qualify you to be the recipient of such suffering. So if you're suffering personally, you should do cheshbon nefesh, self-accounting, to find the things that you weaken and start fixing them, one after another. Tuk, 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 as much as you can. As much as you can until it goes away. And obviously continue thereafter. But the point is that if somebody that sees sufferings in his life, the Gemara says, yefashfesh b'ma'asav, he should start fixing himself. On the other hand, when you're seeing the nation suffer, or the community suffer, you're not talking about anything specific, then obviously you should look at the nations, the people's problems and so on. Even if you see a certain person suffering, and you know that this person is doing certain things that are in the open, they're bad, they're violating Shabbat and so on and so forth. Now how do you portray this message to them? If you're portraying the message to yourself, then obviously be as cold-blooded, honest with yourself as you can. Okay? If you're talking to the public, which means you're not talking to somebody specific, then you could talk about this is a general problem we have in our community. There's a general problem we have in our nation. So you're not talking about someone specific, so no one feels personally attacked, but nonetheless, you're highlighting the problem that everybody is ignoring. In essence, you're bringing out the elephant that's in the room and putting him on stage. So you're telling people that the problem is there. It's time to stop ignoring it, and no one should feel attacked if they're a normal person because you're not attacking them personally. Now, if it's somebody that's personal, then you shouldn't tell them, "Listen, you're suffering for a good thing. Don't worry. your loved one just died, but that's good for you because you're suffering. Don't ever do things like that. What should you do? You simply tell stories. This is where stories come in. Or you could send lectures, but the point is stories are very good because you could have a story of something that's relevant indirectly to what they're going through, and you could show them the lesson. Listen, I thought this is a really good story, and I thought you'd like it. Or you could say, oh, listen, I just asked my rabbi a question, and he sent me this story. I haven't looked at it. Check it out. Let me know what you think of it. And in essence, send them a story so they're getting the guidance or the musar or the the whatever message you want, but indirectly, so they don't feel attacked. And also so you don't break their heart when they're already going through difficulty. The second thing is your timing. The Gemara says that you should never stand, continue a discussion with somebody while he's in a moment of anger. If he's in a moment of anger, walk away. Don't go back and forth with him. Why? Because all of Gehinom is controlling him at that time. You continue to debate him. You try to reason with a person that's still in anger. You're wasting your time. If anything, it's just going to get worse. Same thing with somebody that's overly emotional. If somebody, Shem Yishmael, somebody just died in their family. Listen, I know he died. It was important to you, but listen, you're still young. You can find a new husband. Like, that's heartless. You can't do stuff like that. So you have to use your common sense. You have to use your head. So you have to pick timing. Surely that advice you're saying or your message that you're saying may very well be valid, but a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever it is, it's not now. Why? Because right now it's, they're emotional, they're connected to the problem. It's not the right time. So you have to also use your head. To teach you how to use your head, I personally can't do because I would have to be your head. But you can learn how to use your head by watching more and more of our lectures, because in essence, the more Torah you'll learn, the more your head will be wired correctly. Can you explain the halacha about the prohibitions about the 3 days before the festivals of idol worshippers, like lending items or borrowing items, repaying debts? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says that although you're allowed to do business with an idol worshipper, so long as it's not helping him do idolatry, you have to be concerned and not do business with him 3 days before his holiday, lest he take the money that you give him, the profits that you give him, and use it to sanctify his false god. So if you have avid, Christians as clients or partners of some kind, just don't do any major transactions with them, during this time. That's it, simple. So they don't take the money and use it for their idolatry. That's it. That's really the main thing. If Jews who are doing a mitzvot do idolatry, chas v'shalom, by praying to someone other than Hashem, what happens to their mitzvot? Are they nullified, and do they go to unclean side or something different? Yes, unfortunately, that's the case. If a person makes certain sins like idolatry, all of the mitzvot that they make go to the sitra achra. They go to the evil side. They actually give power to the Satan, and there are many religious people that do mitzvot that work for the Satan because of certain sins that they make. One of the most common sins that causes people to lose all of their mitzvot, in a sense that all of those mitzvot go to the Satan, is wasting seed. Idolatry is one, but wasting seed is another, because wasting seed is also considered a form of idolatry, according to some Chachamim. But the point is, when a person wastes seed, all of their mitzvot go to the Satan. They give the Satan more power. So that's the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu is very, very particular about his mitzvot, and a person must learn them in order to know how to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu the right way. Hello, Rabbi. Is it true that if a man sees his forehead in the Kiddush cup wine, it guarantees 30 more days of life? And also, does it pertain to women too? I never heard that it guarantees 30 days more of life. I'm sure that you got this from somewhere and you're not just making it up, but I personally have never heard of it guaranteeing a specific amount of time of life. I know that there are some chachamim that says that he'll survive, some even say survive the week, but not specifically 30 days, not specifically 30 days. What tribe does a convert belong to? That's one of the things that the Mashiach will tell us. Really no tribe at this point. But in reality, no one really knows which tribe they're in. We have Yehuda, that's, we have some of Menashe, we have a little bit of Levi. We don't have all 12 tribes in the world that we know of. There are certain Jews that the most of the world does not even know they exist. So the converts are not alone when it comes to that. When Mashiach comes, will distinctions and customs between a Sephardi, Ashkenazi, Mizrahi Jews disappear? No. Why would they disappear? Everybody still, has the heritage of their father. To me, it's a verse in the Torah that you have to connect to the things, to the Torah of your father. So somebody from Yemen is connected to the Torah of his father. Somebody from Ashkenaz is connected to the Torah of his father. Someone from Sfarad is connected to the Torah of his father. Why should he forget it? But there will not be sinat chinam, meaning we're not going to hate each other because we're different. Because we're going to finally realize that we're all one people. We're all, one nation. One nation. Why weren't we allowed to write down the oral laws after Mount Sinai? Well, the name of the law was oral law, specifically because we had the mental and spiritual capacity to remember all of it and transmit it orally. Specifically to protect the Torah from the Goyim copying it. Hashem did not want the Goyim, the nations, to know all of the intricate details of our mitzvot for a few reasons. Number one, he didn't want them copying it and creating new religions that are hard to distinguish between Judaism and them, which actually was Christianity at its birth, was almost identical to Judaism. And only when Catholicism was created a few hundred years later did the major change actually happen, where you saw a major difference between Judaism and Christianity. But for the first while, the two were very, very similar. The only difference was that the Christians were worshiping their idol, in addition to God, whereas obviously the Jews were always serving Hashem. But those Jews that were serving the idol of Yoshke were actually praying 3 times a day, learning Torah, giving tzedakah, eating kosher. They were doing everything else that other Jews were doing. They were, in essence, for all intents and purposes, Jews that no one even really knew that they were different until later on. And that was actually one of the sages, a couple of the sages actually, infiltrated the church in order to distinguish it from Judaism, because their core belief was idolatry, but most people didn't know. They would go to a Christian church, but it looked so much like a synagogue that they couldn't tell the difference. They didn't know that they were in an idol-worshipping place. So the sages sent a couple of their chachamim in there in order to infiltrate the Christianity and to become leaders, and in essence to cause a change so you could see the difference between the two. So the first reason why Hashem did not want us to have the oral law is because he did not want the Goyim to copy Judaism, and in essence to make it very hard to tell the difference. Number two, when the Goyim, it actually was to protect the Goyim. And the reason why is because when the Goyim copy our Torah, or they perform some of our mitzvot, like keeping Shabbat and other unique mitzvot that were given to Am Yisrael only, according to God and His Torah, then they deserve death penalty. So Hashem did not want them to have it. And plus, there's other reasons, like there are certain secrets in the Torah that He only wanted to give to Am Yisrael, certain things in the Torah that are only supposed to be utilized by Am Yisrael. But the point being is that initially it was supposed to be transmitted orally, and that's actually how it was for many, many hundreds of years. But then, at the time of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, He was the great sage of that generation, the greatest sage of that generation, and one of the greatest ever. Is the Chachamim actually all agreed that if the Mashiach would have come at the time of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, which is also named Rabbi, then he would have actually been the Mashiach. He would have been chosen as the Mashiach, not only because he was really righteous and a genius and so on, but also because he was also from the line of David. So he was a descendant of King David. And not just speculated to be, related to King David like some other people are. So the point is that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi saw that we are deteriorating in our actions and also in our capabilities, and much of our Torah is being forgotten by most average people. And he realized that it was time for him to enforce a rule that's within the Torah, within the written Torah, which instills power within the sages to make takanot, to make rules in order to protect the Torah. In essence, you're violating the Torah, but for the sake of saving it. So the point being is that it's he knew that if we're not gonna put pen to paper and start writing the Oral Torah, we're gonna lose it altogether. And so he actually instituted to write the Mishnah. The truth be told, that there were already before this time, there were parts of the Oral Torah that were already written, but they weren't distributed to the mass public. Each person had their own little notebook or their own little piece of paper that they would write, and their chidushim, their new insights, or different things, and they would hide them. Their own scrolls. They would have each sage, Talmid Chacham, would have their own collection. Plus, there was a certain sages, Yonatan ben Uziel. Yonatan ben Uziel was already wrote things even before. But the biggest step of putting the Oral Torah to paper is known in the hands of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, which from that, the Gemara came from by Ravina and Ravashi in the later generations after him. When you die and you have your trial in heaven and they go through your life, will they show the bad things which you did before, did TeShuva for? It depends how high your level of TeShuva is. If your level of TeShuva is only out of yir'ah, only out of fear, then they'll show you that these sins were made, but they were accidental sins. If you made a high level of TeShuva, which is a TeShuva out of love, then all of those sins are no more. They simply turn into Mitzvot. So there's nothing to show that's bad. They'll show you how you did something that's actually good. Now, realistically, there's no such thing as doing TeShuva only out of love. It doesn't exist. The best case scenario is if somebody toils and toils over his TeShuva every day throughout his life, they can get to a combination where it's some love and some fear. It can't be just love. It could be just fear, because fear is the basics. It could be even a high level of fear, which is very, very high. Like, Avraham Avinu was admired for having the ultimate fear of Hashem. And it can even get to some level of love. To be just love is non-existent. It doesn't exist. Even if you're the best of the best. It doesn't matter. So it could be fear only, high level of fear and regular standard fear, or even low level of fear and some love, or high level of fear and some love, and so on. But just love itself is not possible. Needless to say, we need to do as many mitzvot as possible and as much tshuva as possible so that our good overshadows our bad. That's really what we're supposed to focus on. Can I date while on the conversion process? Very good question. If you are a non-Jew that is looking to convert to becoming a Jew, and you want to date during that time that you're converting, you only are allowed to date someone that's also in the process of converting to Judaism. I mean, technically you're allowed to date whoever you want, but if you actually want to succeed in your conversion, you should only date someone that's also in the process of converting. You're not allowed to date a Jew under no condition whatsoever, not even a first date or a half a date. So long as a person is not Jewish, they're not allowed to go on a date with a Jew. You also should not date someone that has a different ideology than you, like someone that's still a Christian, someone that's a Muslim, someone that's a atheist. You should not date anyone like that. Or someone that's what's called agnostic, which is in essence someone that cares less about everything other than their desires. So you should not date anyone like that. Why? Because it's very likely that if you continue dating them, you'll develop feelings for them. You develop feelings for them, and that's going to create a problem for you. Why? One day, you're going to say, okay, I'm ready to become a Jew because I've studied all the things that I need to study. I've made all of the life changes as far as moving to a Jewish community, and now I have to convert. And he says to you, or she says to you, yeah, good for you, but I'm not converting. So guess what? You can't convert. Why? So long as you're with that person, you cannot convert. You have to break up the relationship. You have to break up the relationship forever, permanently. You can never see that person again unless they convert to Judaism, which is very, very difficult. I know a story firsthand that there was a couple. One was actually a Jew and one was a non-Jew. And the Jew started doing TeShuva and said, listen, I'm not going to end up marrying you, even though we've been dating for a few years and I care about you and everything. I can't marry you. I'm sorry. I got to go. And she says to him, listen, but I'll convert. He's like, nah, I don't know about conversion. You don't need to convert for me. I can't do it. She was determined. She wasn't going to take a no for an answer. Even though he said no, she wasn't taking a no. Meaning, she went and she started learning a lot of Torah. She became a bookworm. She went and made an appointment with the Beit Din and the rabbis, and she started wearing modest clothes and everything. Literally became a rabbanit. Became somebody that's religious. Charidi. One day she calls them and says, hey, how are you? I haven't heard from her in a long time. 2 years. How are you? Long time no hear. Yeah, fine. How you doing? I want to see you. No, I told you. Listen. No. I want to see you. I need to tell you something. Okay. He goes to a restaurant, kosher restaurant, of course, and he sees this ex-girl that he remembers her. She looked nothing like what she looked. Why? In front of him, he sees a rabbanit. He sees someone that's completely much more religious than him. He sees her. Says, hi. What happened? She says, I converted. Here's my certificate. Rabbi such and such in the California over here, and here it is. Wow, you converted! I can't believe it. It's amazing. She goes, yeah. Listen, so I want to come back together. Now he has no excuse. He still finds her attractive. She's now a Jew. Fine, no problem. Okay, so let's start. And guess what? Because they had a relationship when they were both secular, they figured she's a Jew now. Okay, we're going to end up getting married anyway, so let's act like we're married like we used to anyway. Relationship became a disaster. Any chance of a blessing that could have happened went to hell and never came back. The relationship became a tragedy to hear about, to listen about. Mamash, a tragedy. They ended up wasting another, couple years of each other's life, and eventually broke up in the most horrendous possible way you can imagine. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, do this. You didn't do this. You did this for yourself. You did this with your conditions. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give a blessing. Doesn't give a blessing with no conditions. Everything has a condition. And the problem is that it's very hard to overcome that Yetzer Hara once you have that past and so on. So, simple answer to your question, if somebody The second you start dating them, they are on the same ideological point as you are. They have the same intentions as you to convert, same pace, same beliefs, same rabbi even. Then go ahead and date. If they're not, do not date at all is my recommendation. Why? Because it's only going to be a problem and most likely will destroy your life. At the very least, will destroy your possibility of conversion. Rabbi, when I look at my tzitzit, I feel guilt and shame for not having a blue strand. I will put on a blue string, but if we have no tradition for this, I am confused. So the Yetzirah will make people have the bad feelings for things that they shouldn't have bad feelings, and no feelings for things that they should have feelings. Meaning, a person can watch pornography, a person can cheat on Hashem with doing all types of things, and either not feel anything bad about it, or whatever bad feeling that they have doesn't last very long. Why? Because, they say, okay, I'm sorry Hashem, and just go back to their life, or even sometimes don't even say I'm sorry. But when it comes to something like this, where there's confusion in the world, and the Gdolim, the Gdolei Ador, as we talked about earlier today, said, we do not have the Tchelet in the world today. We do not know for sure what's the Tchelet. You're never going to see Rav Kanievsky, Rav Ovadia, Rav Mazuz, the Steipler Gaon, Chafetz Chaim, Rav Wasmi. You're never going to see any pictures of them with tchelet on their tzitzit. Why? Because it's concluded that we do not have it. And the few Chachamim that say that they believe that we do have it simply wasn't accepted. It wasn't accepted among the Gdolei Ador. And we listen to Gdolei Ador. We listen to the biggest rabbis in the world. So the fact that you feel guilty about not having the blue string means that there is a slight disconnect from the leading sages in the world, and more connect to simply your own feelings. You have to reverse that. You have to have a higher connection to the sages of the generation, much more than to your own feelings. Why? Because the sages of the generation will always take care of you better than your feelings will take care of you, because your feelings sometimes have the Yetzirah in them, the Satan in them, that's going to try to make you feel inappropriately. So again, Tchelet is not accepted among the leaders of Am Yisrael today, hence the reason why you're not going to see them wear it. If you see one day that Rav Kanievsky or one of the other Gedolim is wearing it, then you could say, where did he get it from? And you get it from where he got it from. But so long as we don't see the Gdolei Ador wearing it, it's simply not something that we take on ourselves. Now, if you see, let's say, your local rabbi or a few of your friends, they're wearing it, you don't necessarily need to rebuke them, you don't need to say anything to them, but you should know that the way Am Yisrael has survived through the trials of tribulations of the exile for the last couple thousand years is by connecting to our Gdolim, and not connecting to anyone that just feels something. So forget the feelings, look at the Torah, and understand that that's what we follow. That's what we follow. Shulchan Aruch says we're not allowed to eat while we learn Torah, when we're learning books and so on, but sometimes a person needs to do it in order to help them learn Torah, either because they're falling asleep, or because they're having a tough time keeping their focus and so on, so they need to chew something. And this happens. And surely the Yetzirah is going to sometimes make you overeat and in essence use all your energy on your stomach, which makes you even more tired. So you're trying to eat in order to stay awake, but you end up getting tired as a result of eating. So just be careful on that. Whatever you're eating, try to eat something that's light.